check for the purchase of Alaska of 1868. This transcript is for the Treaty of Cession, signed by Sir Alexander II, which formally concluded the agreement for the purchase of Alaska from Russia, March 30, 1867. Treaty concerning the cession of the Russian possessions in North America by His Majesty the Emperor of all the Russias to the United States of America, concluded March 30, 1867, ratified by the United States May 28, 1867, exchanged June 20, 1867, proclaimed by the United States June 20, 1867, by the President of the United States of America, a proclamation. Whereas a treaty between the United States of America and His Majesty the Emperor of all the Russias was concluded and signed by their respective plenipotentiaries at the city of Washington on the 30th day of March last, which treaty, being in English and French languages, is, word for word, as follows. The French version is omitted for brevity. The United States of America and His Majesty the Emperor of all the Russias, being desirous of strengthening, if possible, the good understanding which exists between them, have, for that purpose, appointed as their plenipotentiaries, the President of the United States, William H. Seward, Secretary of State, and His Majesty the Emperor of all the Russias, the Privy Councillor Edward de Stokel, his Envoy Extraordinary and Minister Plenipotentiary to the United States, and the said plenipotentiaries, having exchanged their full powers, which were found to be in due form, have agreed upon and signed the following articles. Article 1. His Majesty the Emperor of all the Russias agrees to cede to the United States, by this convention, immediately upon the exchange of the ratifications thereof, all the territory and dominion now possessed by His said Majesty, on the continent of America, and in the adjacent islands, the same being contained within the geographical limits herein set forth, to wit, the eastern limit is the line of demarcation between the Russian and the British possessions in North America, as established by the convention between Russia and Great Britain of February 28 to 16, 1825, and described in Articles 3 and 4 of said convention, in the following terms, commencing from the southernmost point of the island called Prince of Wales Island, which point lies in the parallel of 54 degrees 14' north latitude, and between the 131st and the 133rd degree of west longitude, meridian of Greenwich, the said line shall ascend to the north along the channel called Portland Channel, as far as the point of the continent, where it strikes the 56th degree of north latitude. From this last mentioned point, the line of demarcation shall follow the summit of the mountain situated parallel to the coast as far as the point of intersection of the 141st degree of west longitude of the same meridian, and finally, from the said point of intersection, the said meridian line of the 141st degree, in its prolongation as far as the frozen ocean. 4. With reference to the line of demarcation laid down in the preceding article, it is understood, first, that the island called Prince of Wales Island shall belong wholly to Russia, now, by this cession, to the United States. Second, that whenever the summit of the mountains which extend in a direction parallel to the coast from the 56th degree of north latitude to the point of intersection of the 141st degree of west longitude shall prove to be at the distance of more than 10 marine leagues from the ocean, the limit between the British possessions and the line of coast which is to belong to Russia, as above mentioned, that is to say, the limit to the possession ceded by this convention shall be formed by a line parallel to the winding of the coast, and which shall never exceed the distance of 10 marine leagues therefrom. The western limit within which the territories and dominion conveyed are contained passes through a point in Bering Straits on the parallel of 65 degrees 30' north latitude, at its intersection by the meridian which passes midway between the islands of Krusenstern, or Gnaluk, and the island of Ratmanov, or Nunavik, and proceeds due north, without limitation, into the same frozen ocean. The same western limit, beginning at the same initial point, proceeds thence in a course nearly southwest through Bering Straits and Bering Sea, so as to pass midway between the northwest point of the island of St. Lawrence and the southeast point of Cape Chalkotsky to the meridian of 170 to west longitude, thence, from the intersection of that meridian, in a southwesterly direction, so as to pass midway between the island of Otohu and the Copper Island of the Kormandorski Kuplador group in the North Pacific Ocean to the meridian of 193 degrees west longitude, so as to include in the territory conveyed the whole of the Aleutian Islands east of that meridian. Article 2. In the cession of territory and dominion made by the preceding article are included the right of property in all public lots and squares, vacant lands, and all public buildings, fortifications, barracks, and other edifices which are not private individual property. It is, however, understood and agreed that the churches which have been built in the ceded territory by the Russian government shall remain the property of such members of the Greek Oriental Church resident in the territory as may choose to worship therein. Any government archives, papers, and documents relative to the territory and dominion aforesaid, which may be now existing there, will be left in the possession of the agent of the United States, but an authenticated copy of such of them as may be required will be, at all times, given by the United States to the Russian government, or to such Russian officers, or subjects, as they may apply for. Article 3. The inhabitants of the ceded territory, according to their choice, reserving their natural allegiance, may return to Russia within 3 years, but if they should prefer to remain in the ceded territory, they, with the exception of uncivilized native tribes, shall be admitted to the enjoyment of all the rights, advantages, and immunities of citizens of the United States, and shall be maintained and protected in the free enjoyment of their liberty, property, and religion. The uncivilized tribes will be subject to such laws and regulations as the United States may, from time to time, adopt in regard to aboriginal tribes of that country. Article 4. His Majesty the Emperor of all the Russias shall appoint, with convenient dispatch, an agent or agents, for the purpose of formally delivering to a similar agent or agents appointed on behalf of the United States, the territory, dominion, property, dependencies, and appurtenances which are ceded as above, and for doing any other act which may be necessary in regard thereto. But the cession, with the right of immediate possession, is nevertheless to be deemed complete and absolute on the exchange of ratifications, without waiting for such formal delivery. Article 5. Immediately after the exchange of the ratifications of this convention, any fortifications or military posts which may be in the ceded territory shall be delivered to the agent of the United States, and any Russian troops which may be in the territory shall be withdrawn as soon as may be reasonably and conveniently practicable. Article 6. In consideration of the cession aforesaid, the United States agree to pay at the Treasury in Washington, within 10 months after the exchange of the ratifications of this convention, to the diplomatic representative, or other agent of His Majesty the Emperor, of all the Russias, duly authorized to receive the same, $7,200,000 in gold. The cession of territory and dominion herein made is hereby declared to be free and unencumbered by any reservations, privileges, franchises, grants, or possessions by any associated companies, whether corporate or incorporate, Russian or any other, or by any parties, except merely private individual property holders, and the cession hereby made conveys all the rights, franchises, and privileges now belonging to Russia in the said territory or dominion, and appurtenances thereto. Article 7. When this convention shall have been duly ratified by the President of the United States, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, on the one part, and on the other by His Majesty the Emperor, of all the Russias, the ratifications shall be exchanged at Washington, within 3 months from the date hereof, or sooner if possible, in faith whereof the respective plenipotentiaries have signed this convention, and thereto affixed the seals of their arms, done at Washington, the 30th day of March, in the year of our Lord 1867, L.S. William H. Seward, L.S. Edward A. Stokel, and whereas the said treaty has been duly ratified on both parts, and the respective ratifications of the same were exchanged at Washington, on this 20th day of June, by William H. Seward, Secretary of State of the United States, and the Privy Councillor Edward de Stokel, the envoy extraordinary of His Majesty the Emperor, of all the Russias, on the part of their respective governments. Now, therefore, be it known that I, Andrew Johnson, President of the United States of America, have caused the said treaty to be made public, to the end that the same and every clause and article thereof may be observed and fulfilled with good faith by the United States, and the citizens thereof, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand, and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed, done at the city of Washington, this 20th day of June, in the year of our Lord 1867, and of the independence of the United States the 91st. L.S. Andrew Johnson by the President, William H. Seward, Secretary of State